Something like, we've got two issues in Minnesota. First is crazy radical Democrats who are taking our country into communism. And two are gutless Republicans like Bob Loon, and I pointed right at him, who refuse to do anything about it. And that is how I felt it in, what was that, July 2020. That's what my gut said was wrong. As a legislator, I'm telling you, that's what's wrong. See it in the Capitol, these guys are cowards. My very first day in the Capitol was 3 days after the election. Friday. The Republicans had a caucus meeting this Friday. They didn't invite me to it, okay? The Republicans spent $30,000 against me because they knew my intent was to pull back the curtain and tell people what actually happened at the Capitol.
It's on you, dude.
So I said, I'm going to crash their party. I'm going to go to this meeting anyway. So I go to this meeting, and the looks in their faces were just priceless. And so one of these leader guys, somebody in leadership comes up to me, and he says, hey, good to have you here. I'm like, well, then why didn't I get an invitation if it's so good to have you here? Everybody kept saying, good to have you here, but they didn't invite me. And he says, good to have you here. My best advice for you, this is what he tells me. After campaigning for, 3 years and fighting my ass off to get in there, he says to me, don't do anything. Do nothing your first 2 years. Essentially telling me all those promises you made your constituents, the people that went out and voted for you, to help you, they don't matter. He said, do nothing. And that's exactly their mindset. Because their thought is do nothing and that'll help you get reelected. And so you wonder what happens to people when they get elected. That's it. They get elected and they water themselves down. Paul Gazelka had that debate in Mankato a couple weeks ago, admitted it. It was hilarious. I couldn't believe it. He gets up there when they talk about standard ground. And he says something like, he says, I don't think Minnesota was ready for standard ground before. He said, I think you guys might be ready now. So notice, who's he blaming why we never got standard ground in Minnesota? He's blaming you. He's blaming the people of the state because he didn't think you were ready for it. And then he says, I think we're ready now. And he said, we would have done it, but he said we had 5 Republicans in our caucus in the Senate. They were just squishy. They were just moderates. So we couldn't do it. So he's admitting they're letting the moderates control the party. And then the moderate that he was referring to is Scott Jensen. And Scott Jensen gets up and he goes, oh, no. It's not our fault. He says it's leadership's fault. Because leadership tells us what to do. And we just have to do what leadership tells us. And the funny thing is, they're both telling the truth. Leadership blames their squishy Republicans. And then the squishy Republicans say, well, we just do what leadership says. That's what happens in the Capitol. There's nobody behaving in a bold way. And so when I got elected, well, it was a year ago today. I was just telling Mark this. A year ago today, I was in Florida. And at midnight, November 20th, 2020, Walls locked us down again. And I cut a video in this hotel room at this conference I was in, and I said, look, this is ridiculous. We need to disobey these things. And I told everybody, and it's probably in my Facebook memories, I sent a written invitation to Governor Walz and Keith Ellison. I was having a party in my backyard on Thanksgiving, and I invited them personally to attend so they could see and hear from constituents what they've done to them. Of course, nobody actually came. Keith Ellison sent me a letter saying, how dare you do this? He shamed me and said, you should lead by example. And I thought, well, I'm pretty sure I am here. But nobody's doing anything. So then, the very first day in office, I forced a vote to end the emergency powers.
Two lives.
And I was told, don't do this. Nobody does this. Don't do it. The gold standard in Minnesota of constitutionalism. He came to me and said, don't try it. Just pull those articles of impeachment away. He said, you shouldn't file those. He's gutless. In March, I filed the Never Again bill. In April, we forced a vote on the Never Again bill, and all the establishment Republicans blocked a roll call vote on it. And then in May, of course, what happened, I hope you guys know this, in May, I was being too bold, too transparent. The New House Republican caucus kicked me out of caucus. So that's what you get if you fight really hard, and you fight harder than other people in the Capitol. So that's why I'm glad to be here for Neil Shah, because we need people who are going to behave boldly.
Thank you so much. We need an army of legislators like Moore. And he's laid out the problems at the Capitol for you in great detail. problem is that the folks that we send to St. Paul forget who sent them there. We, the people, sent them to St. Paul to advocate on our behalf. And what do they do when they get there? They're interested only in staying in power in St. Paul. That's why this state's broken, and that's why this country is broken. But if 2020 taught us anything, it's that we have all the power. What's the evidence of that? Virginia, the people rose up, took back their state. Every single seat, the whole way down. And what do? They're like three white supremacists. A Jamaican immigrant, a Mexican or a Hispanic AG, and then Glenn Youngkin. I guess we're all white supremacists now. Hooray. We have all the power. The families that make America great, that make Minnesota great, have the power. And the left is completely and utterly terrified of that fact. They are terrified that we have finally realized that this is our country. I was never politically involved. I talked to folks who, same thing. We assume that people in power are trying to do the best they can. Turns out very few of them are. You met one tonight. There's a handful of other legislators, but most of them just want to stay in that position because they're cool now. I'm cool. I'm in St. Paul. I don't want to stand up and take a chance. I don't want to do what's right, even if it means I might get chucked out of office. This is not a job. Politics is not a job. It is service. It is not a career. And we send these careerists there. They never take a chance. They don't stand up for the Constitution. They don't stand up for your rights. They don't defend limiting the size and scope of government. They don't stand up for freedom or liberty. And then we leave them in. That era is over because we realize the cost of that. These folks are running our country into the ground, and we are going to stand up and stop that from happening. We're going to take back our streets and make them safe. We're going to take back our schools and our children's future and make them bright. We're going to retake our economy and grow it. We are not going to sit idly by while the career political class continue to run our state and our country into the ground. And it starts by running different candidates and sending different people, sending actual people with a day job, with kids, with something to fight for to St. Paul, to fight for it. Does that mean we win every battle? No. But it means we try all the time to do what's right for this state and this country. And that is my promise to you. I'm not going to make some campaign promise that this is going to pass, this is going to pass. No. I'm telling you, I'm a constitutional conservative. I'm going to go to St. Paul, and I'm going to remain a constitutional conservative. And if that means I'm in St. Paul for 4 years, and then I get to go back to curing skin cancer, then so be it. I've got a great day job, and I love it. You need to all send folks to St. Paul who have that same mindset. Serve. Do the best you can. Stand up for freedom and liberty, and limited government, protect the people of Minnesota, and then go back to your farm when you're done. That's how this country was founded, and that's what it needs to return to. My folks came here 50 years ago. All your folks came here from somewhere else too, just a little bit longer ago, or maybe not. They came here with nothing. They came lured by the promise of a country that would judge them by the content of their character and the fruits of their hard work, not the color of their skin. And instead, America is going the wrong way, and it's our job to rein it back. America's never been perfect, but it's always been the greatest experiment, the greatest country humans have ever created, and our goal should be to make it better every year, every election cycle. Work hard. The promise of America is freedom and liberty for all, and we need to continue in that vein. So I appreciate all of you being here tonight. Our biggest need at this point is for all of you to tell your friends, your family, your social media followers, hey, I've met someone who wants to go to St. Paul and do the right thing. I've met someone who's willing to step away from his practice, take time away from his kids, try to do the right thing for all of us. And I need your support. We need delegates. We need to win the statewide endorsement. Okay? If we don't have the GOP endorsement, there's not a future forward. We need to win that. So how do we do that? We have enough dollars to continue operations to get to the point but we have enough delegates to secure that nomination. Dollars and delegates. We need volunteers to help us get there. So tonight, think deep about what you can do to try to help us get to that finish line. We appreciate you being here tonight. We appreciate your support. I look forward to speaking with each of you individually afterwards. Thank you.
Yeah, so up next, Nurse Anna, you may have seen her
Nurse Anna.
spearheading the medical freedom fight at some of the rallies here. She's going to have a few words, as well as myself, about what you can do specifically to get more involved and actually take us to the finish line, like Neil was saying. So,
All right.
Anna?
Thank you guys all for coming. I hope I have a loud enough voice for this small room. But,
Always.
who all came from the medical rally today? The big rally. Okay, so we got quite a few people here. So just a big shout out. Thank you, Mark, for helping put that on. And if you don't know me, my name is Nurse Anna. I've been working throughout the pandemic, both as a charge nurse and a director of nursing. And that's when I really started to wake up and see things are happening that should be happening as far as skewed numbers so that the media is putting out there. And adverse reactions to the big that's going on. And I just want to thank Neil Shah for having Sodecco on today. And in fact, I met him at one of the medical rallies early on in St. Cloud. And he was standing up on a picnic bench talking to everyone. I know you remember that. It was a great time. And that's where I'm like, you know what? This guy knows what he's talking about. He knows what's going on. Same with Eric Mortensen. I met him at another rally up in Brainerd. And we just hit it off. And I was so glad to be connected to these guys. So, that's kind of why I'm here today too, is because we can all share these stories that I've talked about and many others have. We all know that something's not right here, and the main thing is we need to do something to make a difference. I mean, you guys came here, you got out of your house, showed up. That's huge. That's the first step. And now just making a difference in what we can do. So whether it's something small like showing up to your school board meetings, running for a school board office, county commissioner, anything that you can do, it just takes one person to do one thing to make a difference. Because it takes a group of people to change a community to change a state, and a state to change a nation. And I think we can do that little by little as we move forward. So I just really want to encourage everyone, like, you guys are all leaders for showing up here today, and you all have the power because we are the people, and we make the change here in the state. So I just want to share that with you. Do your part, do what you can. And if you can't, because we are all busy, show your support to people like Eric and Shah. They are amazing people, and so I just can't stress that enough. And thank you guys for showing up.
And then one final last word quick. Anna is on Team Shaw. She has agreed to be one of our VPOU captains, so she's going to be helping me coordinate our delegate pushes. And there are several others in the room here tonight that I'd like to touch base with throughout the evening, so I'll find you, and if I don't, please seek me out, and then we will chat about that in greater detail. She's going to be helping me recruit delegates, disseminating information out when the time comes, making sure everyone's on top of dates, and have their slates ready to make sure that we turn out people to get this endorsement, because what these guys have been saying all night, the power really does lie with you. It does kind of sometimes seem like a convoluted process. It has grown to be exclusionary. We are the outsiders here, so that's why it's all the more important that we stand up, we get involved, we go to our pre-state caucus, and then the state convention. It's a series of 3 meetings. It's not as hard as it sounds, so please, that's what we need everyone here to do if you can. And we have sign-up sheets floating around. There's one at the front here, so please sign your name if you're attending. And if you're a VPOU captain, I see a few, I'd like to touch base with you. And if you're interested in doing that, I'd love to talk to you too. So thank you again, everyone, very much for coming out. And we'll break away now. You guys can enjoy your food and drinks and chat with the team here, and have a good rest of the day.
So Lori and Cammy are on video too.
Oh yeah. Oh, question.
Before we get too far into campaign season, auditing Minnesota, who's brought that up?
Yeah. You know what I want to do is
How'd
get.
that go?
I want to get on a debate stage with Tim Walz to say, Governor Walz, I would love to order an audit when I beat you in November of my victory. Are you willing to do the same in reverse? And then just watch the fumbling as potato heads kind of like, I don't know, brain exploding. Audits should not be controversial. I audit my books, I own a business. You audit when you don't think anything's wrong to prove there's nothing wrong. Why am I willing to audit my win and you're not, Governor Walz? Can you see Senator Gazelka making that same statement on stage? No, he's hiding, crying in the corner. You have to go after these guys. We need someone who's willing to take the fight. Tim Walz and the radical left, and I'm fully willing to do that. Why? Because I'm not trying to stay in politics. I'm not trying to be friends with the political class. I'm trying to save the state that I love from those people. So the answer to the audits is yes, always, if we win, if we lose. It restores faith in the electoral system.
But how do you stop? Sometimes the audits are just
Recounting the ballots. Recounting the ballots.
So I've got friends and family that say, why should I bother to vote? We all saw the truckloads of Omar's fake ballots.
Dominion.
How are we going to get the election integrity before the election?
Well, so you have elected representatives. Obviously, Representative Mortensen would be happy to see voter ID passed. But the reality is, when you only have the Senate, you don't have anything else. It's not going to before that. So I'm going to be the victim of that as well. So how do we help on a tactical level? What do? You got to poll watch. We got out poll watched 7-1. 7-1. In Virginia, 90+% of the poll watching positions for Republicans were filled. Minnesota never sees that kind of turnout. We have to get there. We have to do that.
So what's poll watching?
So if you go to the Minnesota GOP, there's an election integrity thing, and there's a sign up through there. Yeah. Do it now, because there's a long lead time to train up, to understand what you have to do. Be involved in that process. Second, they have been trying to systematically disenfranchise our half of the population for the last 50 years. I was born and raised in Chicago. There has never been a legitimate election in the city of Chicago. Okay? This isn't some big steal that started now. It's all these little steals over a very long period of time. It's systematic weakening of our election integrity laws. So voter ID, we know the prescription. Voter ID, provisional balloting. Okay, everyone can say that all day long. But we still have to show up and get the people in to pass those, and then hold their feet to the fire to actually vote the correct way on these and not run away screaming when the left starts to apply pressure. So we know what the policy prescriptions are. That's not controversial. Somehow, because I'm brown, I can't get an ID. That's what the left likes to say. I'm perfectly capable of getting an ID. I can buy a beer and complain. I don't understand how it's controversial. So we can enfranchise more voters, even if they don't vote for me, by having voter ID. You want to mail a ballot to every single house? I'm fine with that as soon as we have voter ID. Because that ballot means nothing unless it comes back with one unique driver's license on it. So if they want to enfranchise voters, I do too. Pass voter ID. Why aren't you passing voter ID? Oh, you don't want to enfranchise voters? You want to disenfranchise our half of the population? We got to show up. We got to vote. We have to get the people in to do it. But it starts there. And I'm going to be a victim of this as much as anyone else will, because we won't get these done until then. But what we can do is show up and poll watch. Sir.
Yeah, one thing. I like you. By the way, I liked the speech you gave at the rally. And I'm kind of in the same allopathic medical tradition as you, I guess. But the thing that I think you have to hit Walz with is his unilateral exercise of police powers without legislative authority. That's what he did. That's what governors did all over the country. But we've got to put a stop to that. There's no Minnesota statute. I mean, the Minnesota statutes actually forbid him to do what he did. He's, the statute on executive authority says he can issue directives to administrative agencies, but he cannot exercise police powers or impose anything on the general population. And he did that. The Emergency Powers Act. Well, that was to keep us safe, but there's nothing in there that gave him authority to close businesses or do anything else he did. So he is acting against the law, and so this is lawlessness across the country. And it was actually being coordinated by the federal government, but that is what it is.
Representative Mortensen has the best bill on this, and so I'm going to let him, if you don't mind, talk about it. But the one comment I would make is that there's the Never Again pledge to pass the Never Again bill, which means I'm not going to do anything else as governor until I strip my own powers. I don't understand how that's controversial. Yet the career politicians up on that stage with me refuse to sign it, and they're like, "Well, I just don't sign pledges." Yeah, I don't either. This one happens to be the single most important issue that we have to face. And so you can talk a little about that struggle of going through it. One of these things.
Yeah, so I said in March I dropped the Never Again bill. I didn't really explain what that is, so if you guys don't know, it addresses the emergency power. So the bill does 4 things that are unique that no other bill that has been introduced does. First of all, it says the governor doesn't get to unilaterally anoint himself the king of the state anymore. That stops. It says to declare an emergency, we need a 2/3 supermajority vote in both bodies to agree this is an emergency. That takes out, politicizing these things. And then it says it's only, well, the number 2 thing is it says the governor doesn't get to just make up laws like he did, right? Not in our form of government. The legislature creates laws. So the governor can't just issue these executive orders, close businesses, force masks on your faces. If he needs a law to do something, come to the legislature. We just had a supermajority agree it's an emergency. We'll entertain that. Odds are it'll pass. The third thing it does is it says, instead of you being punished with a $1,000 fine or 90 days in jail, if you violate these rules, it's the governor that goes to jail for 90 days or is fined $1,000 if he violates these rules. The fourth thing, which is completely unnecessary to be honest, but considering the courts in Minnesota are not that friendly, it puts in a Citizens' Bill of Rights. It just reaffirms the fact that even during an emergency, the courts and government at all cannot trample on our rights. So that is the only bill that does that. Everybody else's bills do little things like, a simple majority is required in both bodies to reaffirm or to extend an emergency. And they're saying that's good enough, but my point to them and you is, we have a 1-seat majority in the Senate. We're 1 Democrat senator away from that bill being completely meaningless. So to me, I think the bar needs to be higher. And in all those bills, the other bills, they allow the governor to still unilaterally declare an emergency. So to me, that's just, it's proven it'll be abused. And so that's what we call the Never Again bill. And Neil Shah is one of very few candidates that have actually signed it. And I find it funny that the Jensens of the world say, we don't sign pledges. I don't sign pledges. He puts out on Facebook all the time, sign my pledge to support this thing. It's like, wait a minute, he wants you guys to sign pledges, but he won't do it himself. So I find that a little bit hypocritical.
Appreciate that background. Yeah. Any other questions that I can answer? Yeah.
Do you support blockchain technology or smart contracts through blockchain technology or fingerprint validation for voter identity stuff?
Right. So the question is
beyond just a license, like you vote.
Right. Like
for other technology to verify the vote.
Yeah. So right. So the question is about blockchain voting for technology,
and or fingerprint.
And or fingerprint. Right.
What India does, very simple, very basic.
Yeah. I mean, the idea then would be there's some small amount of driver's license fraud you're trying to correct for. Is that the concept behind it? Of course. Yeah. I mean, you'd want to make sure it's selective.
How many illegal immigrants have an ID? Right. And not here legally.
Right.
Why are you able to vote if you have an ID?
Right.
You should be able to. You should have a citizenship.
Yep.
How do we?
Yeah.
How do we work that out?
So once you so the question is, how do you prevent people from voting either in the wrong area, which is prevalent, or voting that shouldn't vote, that aren't franchise voters? And so when we talk generically about the concept of voter ID, it does mean that there is a backbone of a database that verifies that not just do you have an ID, you can't just show up and vote with an ID. That ID has to be linked. You have to, one, show up in the correct area, so you're voting with the correct precinct and the correct ballot. But it also has to make sure that you're an enfranchised voter, because you could be a felon who's lost their right to vote and still have an ID. So I'm not sure you need blockchain to do this. I mean, maybe at the end you get like 1 or 2 extra votes.
What about a simple fingerprint?
Well, I'm not even sure you need that. And I don't like the government keeping your biometrics on file. Maybe you're comfortable with that, I'm not. But what it does mean is that you do need a database of which driver's licenses have enfranchised voters attached to them and which don't. Because you can definitely have a valid ID and still not be an enfranchised voter. Yeah.
I know the federal government scanned my face when I chose not to get my stimulus check every month for my kids. I don't know, they probably got a lot on that scan, I'm guessing. It's pretty sad they enforce that type of verification.
Right.
Or biometric harvesting or whatever they did. But just to get me, just so they wouldn't send me a check, they got that.
Yeah.
But yet, yeah, when it comes to verifying elections, it's crazy.
We got any other questions? Take a couple more. Yeah.
Yeah, so this is more a general question for any candidates besides just getting the endorsement and winning the primary, because the general election is the most important, how to beat walls. So I feel like the best way, my own opinion, the best way to beat walls is to win over the swing voters. So what's your plan to win the swing voters, the independents, and even some soft groups?
Right, right. So the question is, how do you win the general? I mean, and those are going to be people who aren't our base. Well, there's a few issues to touch on there. One, if we send the wrong person to the general, we lose. Right? We send a career politician who's not going to turn out our base and not going to give us a shot at bringing the people that we have not been reaching back. We lose for sure. So the battle actually starts all the way back at the endorsement convention. You endorse the wrong person, you've already lost the general election. The reason I'm here is because everyone else running has no shot in the general. And if I did not believe that, I would not be here. I would write a check to the person who I thought could get it done, and I would be with my kids right now. So I'm here because I believe that I give the conservatives the best chance, the only chance to repeat what happened in Virginia. Two, you have to win 3 elections to get there. So you need to win the endorsement, you need to win the primary, you need to win the general for us to retake the governor's mansion. How do you win the general election? Again, the prototype of Virginia is the exact prototype to follow because it fits our state to a great degree. Metro areas that dominate the blue voting, and then the out-of-state, greater Minnesota or greater Virginia are all red. You do that by doing 3 things. One, you have to run up the score in the areas you already own. So greater Minnesota has to not be red, it has to be like maroon red, like really, really red. And everyone has to show up and grab their neighbor, and their other neighbor, and their dog, and go in and vote, okay? You have to run up the score in the areas you already have. How do you do that? You don't do it by running a milquetoast Republican. You run it by running an actual conservative that people are excited about. What's the last time you were excited about a statewide candidate in this race? You were like, I will put the lawn signs in my yard, I will stand out in 20 below zero to help at some rally. We don't do that. The party doesn't select for those kinds of candidates. They select for political insiders. When we sat down with the now disgraced chair, Jennifer Carnahan, they were not happy we were at that table. They were not happy there was someone who's not going to play nice with the rhinos in St. Paul, to call them out on their BS and actually run for conservative values at a statewide level. They did not want us there. They still don't want us there. Too bad, we're still there. So you get an exciting candidate, you run up the score. The suburbs are going to come back on 1 of 2 issues: crime and schools. And it's going to be different wherever it is, but it's going to be one of those. The left has a complete inability to pivot on either one of those issues. We win. We have better messaging, we have better policy on both of those issues. They carried the ball in Virginia. I think the economy is going to be a bigger component here in the year when randoms run our country into the ground with inflation and supply chain problems get worse. So we have the correct policy prescriptions on that side as well. So we need someone who's going to bring those folks back. Policy's there. So who are these suburban voters going to go for? Electability is a big thing. Being a professional, having young kids, being a young candidate, all of those intangibles matter. We have that in this campaign. And finally, when you get inside CD4 or 5, so inside the city, who can credibly reach communities that we have failed for far too long and say our message, the message of prosperity, the message of an unlimited ceiling, the message of freedom and liberty and religious freedom, who's going to do that? The left or the right? And do we have a credible candidate who can deliver that messaging on the right? We're not going to win 30% of the vote in Minneapolis-St. Paul. It's not going to happen right away. But we have to show up decade after decade with better candidates to reach out to those communities to show that we do actually care very much about you. We want you to be wealthy and safe and have schools that serve your kids. And 50 years of Democrat rule has run your neighborhoods into the ground. It has created an unsafe environment for your kids, and it has created failing schools because the left makes the teachers' unions number 1 and your kids number 2. That message over a long period of time can win. So that's how we start to make the inroads there, but let's pick it up after that. That's how you win the general. Yeah.
Is there a way to get into the nursing homes and places like that? Because let me tell you, those places are...
Ballot harvesting? Ballot harvesting? Is that the concern?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I've witnessed it. I see it all the
Yep.
time. Because there a place to get, a way to get into those?
We need to mobilize. I mean, this is what the Minnesota GOP is supposed to be doing, right? It's like our version of you want to call ballot harvesting, whatever Ilhan Omar is doing. We have to get people who we know would vote to vote the way they want to vote, not have someone walk into the room and be like, I really think you want to vote for this. Can you scratch your name in this corner? I agree with you. That's a big potential area that we have to be
People come
careful.
in there and speak for only the Democratic candidates. That's it. They have people come in there and get them all excited for that. They don't even represent their side.
I will tell you, I mean, I don't know with COVID right now, because like I call Bingo in assisted living in Woodbury, and they're not letting any guests come in because of COVID. But before the whole COVID thing, yeah, you could go into any of these places, because I have helped way back in 2012, the CD4 congressional candidate, and I told him, I said, go have some coffee with these people, and he did, and he left his literature, and it never moved from the day he did it till the day of voting, because they don't clear these tables up. So his literature was in the face of these people. Now, he didn't win CD4 because we can't win Benny McCullum, but you know, so hopefully someday we'll find someone that can. But he did very well, and you know, part of it was he did go into these homes. You can go, but like I say with COVID right now, I think you guys are going to have a struggle. So what you have to do is find a way to say, well, can we leave our literature there? Because I believe, like the one I call Bingo at, that they'd let you leave your literature, and they would put it out and let it lay, but they may not let you in because of COVID right now. But these facilities, I'll have to tell you, on the day of the school board, I went, and that was the night I called Bingo, and I said, hey, did you guys, you know, there was like 15 people at the table, I said, did you guys go vote? And their voting is right next door at the high school. And they said, no, they don't really, no one comes in here, and they don't really make a big thing of it for us when it's just the local races. Now with the presidential race, and you know what you guys will be in, those are bigger races. They will drive these people to the polls. But no, nobody with the school board ever came in to visit them, and therefore none of them voted forward.
You had another question? Yeah.
As a medical doctor, in the Freedom of Medical Choice Count, have you had any pushback at all against your medical license, or?
Yes, we fortunately have escaped without a complaint against my license yet, but you're not, you know, you'll take flack once you're over the target. So right now, this campaign has been largely ignored, and that will eventually, unfortunately, change. So, you know, we're prepared for that. That was the conversation I had with my director of operations, with my wife, and said, you know, they try to use these terrorist tactics to keep us from speaking up. And they want fear. They don't want us to be enfranchised voters. And at some point, you just have to say, if I stay quiet long enough, what country am I going to have a business in, to raise kids in, to live in? And at some point, you're more afraid of that than you are these other things. So it's coming. You guys can all help us when that comes to pass. But no, it was the first conversation, and my wife is like, look, we got to do this. If good people don't stand up, they will continue to railroad us. Yeah.
I just had one note on poll watching. I was one last season, and when people do poll watching, you walk into the election, judge tries to show you where to sit. In the east side, they try to set us off way in the corner. So you have to, if you do it, you really have to learn the rules and enroll, and then assert yourself to that poll judge, so that you can be where you're supposed to be, so that you can watch. Otherwise, they'll stick you off in the corner where you can't see anything.
Yep.
There's a poll watcher from each party, but the other one doesn't care.
Yeah.
We have to care enough, and we have to assert ourselves. Otherwise, we're judged. We all have to fill these roles.
We absolutely have to fill those roles. When they tell you to go stare at a wall, tell them no thank you. Be polite, but be firm.
Yeah.
Be like, look, if you believe that I'm doing something illegal, you're welcome to call the police and have them remove me. But up until the time that you do that, I'm going to stand here and do my job. Is that okay with you? Don't give in. Don't. Because what are they going to do? Nothing.
All right. When you're on the big stage, which I have faith you're going to be, your answer to the Kyle Rittenhouse.
So we were, the answer to the Kyle Rittenhouse, okay? We were the only gubernatorial campaign that tweeted or posted about Kyle Rittenhouse. That's all you need to know about my level of fear about that. Now, my
What was
personal
the tweet?
Oh, well, I can read it to you.
Yeah, I don't know what it
Go
was.
ahead. You're not following my Twitter. I'm deeply hurt.
No, I bought a t-shirt to fair. I bought a t-shirt to fair.
Excuses. All right.
I don't have Twitter and social media.
Hey, good. I don't either on my phone, but this is just me cap I got. So, Alpha News said, it looks like Dr. Neil Shah is the only GOP candidate for Minnesota governor who has commented on the Kyle Rittenhouse verdict. And this was the controversial post we have. It's not controversial at all. It's unfortunate that Kyle ever needed to resort to using his weapon in self-defense. But here we are, and it was in self-defense. He should never have been charged, but justice was served today. The right to self-defense is just that, a human right. We need constitutional carry and stand your ground legislation passed in Minnesota. When Tim Walz fails to ensure public safety, we need to know that we can still defend life, liberty, and property.
You can take me later.
So, absolutely, you know, it was justice was served, and this bizarre meltdown from the left about this white. I need a T-shirt that says white supremacist because this is what it is.
Neil, I got a question.
Yeah.
Did you tweet anything about it before the verdict came out?
We did not tweet anything about it before it came out.
Another question. With everything that's going on in our state and our country, I understand that campaigning now for something that's going to happen 2 years from now is important. But with everything that's going on in the shitstorm that we're in, pardon my language, wouldn't it be better for any of the candidates that are running to put more effort, since you are a public figure, not like me, to use those efforts and those resources to fix what's broken right now so that it's not as broken when you get there?
Yeah. No. That's the short answer. I'll give you the longer answer. You have a limited amount of resources and time. All right. So running for a statewide race takes a lot of time. Holding down a day job while you do that and trying to raise 3 kids takes a lot of time. So no, I cannot solve all the world's problems while I'm also trying to solve all the world's problems by running for statewide. You have elected representatives. Make your elected representatives do their job. Candidates are running because they're unhappy with how things are and they think things need to go a different way. And so that is the sole focus of all of my activities. We have a lot of problems that we need to solve now. We need to solve them with direct action now by getting your legislators to actually do their jobs. But we also need to get candidates to run with everything from school board all the way up to fix these problems. And all of these are a massive commitment of time and of dollars and of risk. So when you find someone that you like that's running, support them. Because if you don't, we're going to get what we get with the folks that we have.
Joe, so just to build off what Joe was asking, he's talking about fixing 2020 and what went wrong, which I know is a big thing on a lot of people's minds. And it's a real demotivator for potential voters. So, he addressed that. You said there's not really enough time, and I kind of get that, being that we're a traditional blue state, but would you say that we've learned a lot from other deep forensic audits where we're wiser and we will be able to shore up those areas in a future election? Is that kind of where you're going with it?
Yeah, but it's also, you know, if the system was irrevocably broken, you could not have Virginia. You could not have a truck driver take out the sitting Senate president in New Jersey. So I am not sympathetic to this idea that the system is so broken that it can't function.
Okay.
And I am also not sympathetic to it when you are out poll watch 7-1.
Right.
So if we show up and we fill 100% of those positions, we have paper ballots in almost all of Minnesota, and just Scantrons to scan them. So yes, you're not going to get much sympathy from me if we don't show up.
And they know they're being watched probably a lot more now, right? From all the exposure.
Well, they absolutely are, but there has to be a body there watching them, and do not let them put that. Once it's in the box, it's done. It's counted. We don't have provisional balloting here. As soon as that Scantron is in that box, it is over. Challenge it. Hold it out. Don't let it get in that box. But I am not sympathetic to this idea that it can't be won, and I am not sympathetic to people who are going to use that as an excuse to stay home. Show up, vote, poll watch, we win. Because if that was not true, Virginia, New Jersey, a district attorney that's a Republican in Seattle, none of those things could have happened. All right?
On the same note, we learned a lot from mistakes last time. They didn't call around looking for poll watchers until like the week before. It was like the Trump campaign realized, oh, duh, we forgot this. And they were calling around, and they were basically calling delegates. The only people whose phone numbers they had. So they were playing catch up. And now people are aware of this. It's been a national issue that people are aware that there are poll challenges and poll watchers.
Well, the Minnesota GOP has not done their job.
Right.
Okay, it's been a dumpster fire, and it needs to improve.
I will tell you, they have a whole board right now.
Right. Now they have an
Stan,
entire
I don't know
election
if you know
integrity
Linda
board.
Stanton in
Yep.
Woodbury.
They've got.
She is on the board, so they've got a thing in place, and they are rapidly signing people up.
Final.
Yeah,
But this
it
is
did happen,
supposed
yes.
to be the purpose of our state. So we have to not just take back our state, but we have to take back our state party and make it into the state party that we want to see. Otherwise, it will just continue to puffs along with this level of mediocrity that we've seen in the past. All right, one last question, if there is one. Okay.
Okay, so
Better be good, last one.
Yeah, last one.
do you have a plan?
No pressure.
So our daughter is one of those rare conservative Christian teachers. She battles the teachers union. I believe the teachers union run the state a lot. Obviously Walls was a teacher. Do you have a plan to speak to the teachers union? They have a lot of power in this state.
I don't care what the teachers union has to say. And this is your daughter? Daughter. Your daughter should talk to Kathy about getting a job at Liberty, which is a Christian classical school that all of our kids attend. So this is it. If you don't like your choices, you change the situation. And the teachers are phenomenal, right? But we have to draw a bright line between teachers and then the woke teachers and the teachers union.
She teaches in the city.
Yeah. So the good teachers who don't like that the kids are being second fiddle need to take their skills and go to growing private schools that still focus on education. And eventually, once the dollars follow the kids, the public schools will be forced to reform or go away. And I don't really care about what teachers. And you know what? The most vociferous attacks are going to come from the teachers' unions, because they know they're in danger. Because they know they pissed off the parents. But the parents are more powerful than the teachers' unions. The only people more powerful.
Let's go, Neil.
Thank you guys so much. Please get your voices very well. Nice to meet you. No, I'll return fire.
So we're gonna go off here. So I think you were live, right?
Hi, yes I was live.
Yeah, so is Tammy. So
I have to go grab my food.
I'm gonna go off. Thanks for watching.